The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
An open letter to fellow patriots. We have a way out. Capitulation or showdown. I can't remember how long I've been listening to Alex Jones lead the constitutional freedom movement, but I do know that I have been a 54-year witness to the degradation of American life and the tyrannical takeover of the United States of America by usurpers of power. Sometimes, when I'm alone in quiet thought, I think about how sorry I am for this country. I literally swell up with tears at the possible death of a great nation. I remember visiting Gettysburg in Pennsylvania when I was a child and taking in all the great history this country offered. I remember how proud and privileged I was to be an American citizen. I felt like I was a small, but important, part of an exclusive club. I was part of something that most people in the world knew nothing about. How great it was that I was a citizen of a country that, with hard work, moral living and God's grace, I could achieve a slice of the American pie. I also knew that the American pie was not a right, but a privilege. The harder one worked, the more one could attain. I remember promising myself that when I grow up and have children, that I would, like my father did, make sure they knew the level of sacrifice people give to secure a future for them. Well, 5 children later, I can honestly say I achieved that goal. Our dinners are filled with political talk that, unfortunately, most Americans would not understand today. My children know more about current events than most adults. They know that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and that we are not a democracy but a constitutional republic, a country of laws and not men. But this letter is not about my stroll down memory lane, nor is it about my children. These words are about the answer to the problem that confronts this nation today, the erosion of quality of life in America by the New World Order, the United Nations and the international bankers. For years I have noticed that most people love talking about the problems that face America today. We rarely talk about the solutions to ending the communist-fascist invasion of our country. The reason for this is because we are so used to being involved in the democratic process that we automatically think the only way we can make change in the United States is by voting the rats out of office. America is a nation of city hall fighters. We are taught that, beyond the democratic process we are familiar with, the when, where and how of making revolutionary change is limited. We forget that there is another way to take back our country, and that it has always been in front of us right from the beginning. So, to those patriots with the courage to dare something different and to those patriots that want to shake the tree to get the bad fruit out, here is the answer. I'm sure many of you know that in November 2009 a Continental Congress was convened and actually took place. The Congress was organized through the We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education, under the leadership of Robert Schultz, chairman. Actual voting took place on a national level, to choose 153 delegates from among a larger list of nominees. Each state was represented at the Congress as well as Washington, D.C. Most people know of Robert Schultz's work and his tireless dedication to the freedom movement. It was through this foundation that I discovered the tremendous work of Alex Jones, and have been a fan of Alex ever since. The Continental Congress was held in 2009 from November 9th to the 22nd at a major conference center in St. Charles, Illinois. I believe that just about all of the expenses for the delegates were paid for by money raised for the event. Under the direction and leadership of Congress President Michael Badnarik, the group met tirelessly, on a daily basis, for over 2 weeks to create a document called the Articles of Freedom. The articles covered 15 grievances that needed redress by the government. They covered taxes, immigration, war powers, the Federal Reserve as well as many other violations of constitutional powers ignored by our federal and state governments. Each topic or grievance had 3 components attached. The first, demands to the officers within the United States government, the second, demands to the state legislatures, and the third, advice for citizen action at the local level. This 61-page document of our listed grievances was the end result of the Congress. The Articles of Freedom were sent to all members of the House of Representatives, the Senate and the President. The document that was worked on by so many patriots was ignored by every one of the criminals at the federal and state level. But this should not surprise anyone. Is there anyone out there that really believed that things would change by requesting redress from our leaders? I didn't think so. Now that you are familiar with the workings of Continental Congresses of 2009, let me tell you how we can defeat these criminals. We will convene another Continental Congress, only this time for a different reason. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form, as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. We will abolish the existing illegal government, to effect our safety and happiness. Now I know a lot of you are critical at this point, but read on, and you'll see what I mean. Let's start from the beginning. The Continental Congress cannot create a new government. According to the Constitution, only the people can do that. This Continental Congress will lay the legal framework to abolish the existing government, and set the stage for new elections in the new government. After all, isn't that what our founders did at the inception of our nation? They had the courage to create a government and a nation, before the British left the continent. Whether it be through war or peace, they did not wait for British authority to grant them the power to govern themselves. Now, legality is very important here. Historically, we must show legal evidence or argument for our need to abolish. The Congress could draft another Declaration of Independence to argue justification for abolishment. The Congress could call for national elections for a new president, a new House and a new Senate. Maybe the Congress could create a legal document for citizens to send into the State Department to declare themselves free from the illegal government. They could repatriate the American flag and the Constitution back to the new, free constitutional United States. The most important part of the Congress would be to call for new elections. Anyone in the libertarian movement that wished to be nominated could run for office. Keep in mind that these elections are not to replace the existing House and Senate members in Washington. The Continental Congress would have already abolished those bodies. Now, I know that many of the readers, at this point, are thinking the following thought. So, we convene a Continental Congress, create a legal basis for a new government, execute new elections and declare ourselves free. Now what? Now, we have just created an us versus them. That's right. Where before we had me versus the New World Order, Alex Jones versus the New World Order, Robert Schultz versus the New World Order, my mother versus the New World Order, and so on and so on and so on. Now, we have the Constitutional United States versus the New World Order. Two separate governments that will oppose each other. Remember this, when the garbage hits the fan, and it soon will, wouldn't you like to be part of a united government that gives legal authority to you and me to fight back? As a matter of fact, I wouldn't doubt that at some point, the New World Order, through the Obama administration, would threaten arrest of all officers of the Constitutional United States, if they did not disband. At first the folks at CNN would laugh at the idea of a new government. Newspaper articles will be written and interviews given about the comedy of a government with only 500,000 citizens. But with each passing day, as more people are signing and sending in their citizenship papers to the State Department, our ranks will swell to immense proportions. Not only will individuals become citizens of the constitutional United States, but so will businesses, towns, counties, members of the military and police and, yes, even states. Just imagine a baby being born in a hospital and the parents are given Social Security documents to register their children, and instead of handing in the Social Security documents, the parents give the hospital back paperwork notifying them that the child is a citizen of the constitutional United States. Slowly, like an antibiotic inside the infected New World Order, we will take over. And if the terrible happens, and they start arresting our officers and citizens, then this will be an act of war, and may there be Godspeed to our side. You have to realize how time is important to the globalists. The more time we give them to prepare, the more they will solidify their position of authority over us. This is a strategy that should force the illegal government of the New World Order to act before they are actually ready to act. Remember, this is a plan to force capitulation or showdown. If this plan brings us to war, then it is far better that it happen now rather than 5 years from now, when they have taken our weapons away from us. And most importantly, if we find the tyrants trying to stop the Continental Congress from convening, then we know we are on the right track. In game theory, this is called forcing the hand or forcing your opponent into play. We can now become the strategic controller, the surgeon cutting the cancer from the tree of liberty. The work to establish another Continental Congress can start immediately. There must be money raised, committees organized, and locations picked out. It is important to remember that this Continental Congress will not be given the task of creating another set of Articles of Freedom. This was already done at the Continental Congresses of 2009. The new Continental Congress will be convened to abolish the usurpers and give rebirth to the original governing model that was created for us in 1776. The act of our current government refusing to give redress to our grievances of the Continental Congresses of 2009 gives us legal right to convene another Congress to actually fix the problem. I must say one more thing before I end this letter. I have seen the level of resolve of the globalists. They are willing to kill both you and I when the time is right. Men do not simply convene a Continental Congress at a whim. It takes immense tyranny to force a break in allegiance. Calling another Continental Congress to abolish the illegal invaders is the right thing to do. I promise you it will work. There, however, will be sacrifice needed from everyone. Let's finally stop complaining and start fighting back. Let's stop letting the criminals make the history, and let's give the communist-run SPLC another freedom-loving, law-abiding, libertarian organization to fear. We are the true writers of history. I would like to know your opinions on this strategy. I would love to hear Alex Jones' opinion. We must start a debate on the issue. I fear if we do nothing, then we will collapse. Remember, the idea is to solidify our power under one authority and use that rightful authority to take back control. Two governments cannot govern one land. There will have to be capitulation of one of the authorities or a showdown. To keep doing what we have been doing is suicide, and I refuse to believe that constantly talking about our problems will bring us victory. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you. Keith Hayden, Winston, Connecticut Hayden 091758 @yahoo.com